Okay, we'll try and do this as quickly as possible. The module is pretty long. I tried to go through and add the lesson 4, lesson 5, lesson 6 in places that I thought it would break things up a little bit. We have all of the Discovery Ed pieces embedded as an external tool, and you'll notice that it's this icon here on the left. And we've included an overall, I'll go through the overview, but an overview for the students and a few turn-in points to show evidence of learning. This first one is a discussion thread. We are really utilizing the annotation feature for students within this module. So as a teacher, you will have to make a decision on whether or not you're going to print out the example or let the students use their stylus on their Chromebook and the annotation tool. I have included a video. If you've never used the annotation tool before with your students, there is a video to walk them through how to use all of the different tools in there. There are some videos in here that, especially if they're Discovery Ed or some of the indigenous lessons that we have, those videos, most of them are not YouTube based, so we can't just embed them. So I would highly recommend on there that, at least for the Discovery Ed ones, that you actually teach from the Canvas unit itself and watch the videos or view the videos through the Canvas module. Or when you get to the indigenous videos, then those would be pulled up on a separate tab, probably on your computer. So if I come up to the overall overview for the unit, again, this is student facing. Targets for the unit, as well as kind of some show us like what will you know by the end of the unit, the how they know they'll be successful, and the to-do list that links to all of the like turn-in components within the module itself. And then you'll notice that all of the embedded components for Discovery Ed, so students don't have to go anywhere. They can just stay straight here in Canvas and won't have to like open up an additional tab or anything. And all of the additional resources show up too at the bottom. I'm just going to kind of click through some of the next pieces. So the discussion thread, this one is where students will be answering a question and then responding to their peers. So you're going to want to give them time to do that. This could be that maybe they answer this question on a Monday and they come back and respond to their classmates on a Tuesday. So keep in mind how you might pace that response. It is considered a graded discussion thread, which means when you go into SpeedGrader, regardless of if you're giving points or it's just complete or incomplete, every single post that a student makes will be underneath their name, so you can grade it all in one go. So keep that in mind. Even their peer responses will show up under their name with a little dividing line in between each of their posts. And sometimes I embed this teaching slide deck like I did here. And other times I didn't necessarily do that, but let me know if you feel like you want them to have the teaching slide deck as well. So for this particular prompt, the teaching slide deck is linked on your unit overview here. I tried to call out wherever they were. So I think this one it's this guy here. Yeah. So it shows your teaching slide deck right here. And that's just where I've tried to pull all of the resources that are linked into one place to make it easier for you guys. I have included the audio for the podcast. So literally you can just click here and play the 3-minute podcast with this projected up on the screen. And then students also have access to that too if they were not in class that day. And then in terms of the use of the annotation feature, so this is where I mentioned I do have a video. It's short, it's like a minute I think, to walk them through how to use the annotation tool. And in this instance, I just pulled the PDF straight from Discovery Ed. I did have to download it, but then, and I'll show you really quickly, all you have to do from your end, if this is something you want to do in the future, is you just go down to where it says submission type. You pick online and then you click student annotation and you can just go ahead and upload the PDF. So in this instance, it is in fact a PDF. I did just do a screenshot of the PDF and put that in the directions so that they knew what the PDF looked like, or just to help visually guide what they're doing. So within the quick write, I have attached, where possible, I've attached also the targets. I can kind of show you. So I went ahead and used from Brad's instructions. I used these responses for the quick write instead of what Discovery Ed had. And so that's what you see here in the instructions component. And if I go in and edit this particular question, you'll see that I turned on Rich Content Editor for students, the spell check for students, and the word count. And then underneath the grading notes, this is where you'll see all of the responses to help you when you're grading on the back end. Okay, so here's an example of one of the videos from Discovery Ed. Because it's embedded in Discovery Ed and it's not, like I said, a YouTube video, then I would actually highly recommend you either search out all of these videos in the Discovery Ed platform or just teach straight from Canvas. I probably would have the slide decks open that I might be using, the teaching slide decks, and then a tab for Canvas to instruct and guide the kids where to get all of the components and access all of the information. But I would probably teach straight from Canvas for any of these videos. And there's about 3 different videos, all are pretty short, in the maps section. So basically, and you can decide if you want to do both, but the Discovery map making activity guides them through different components of a map and then has them making their own map and their choice. Like maybe it's a map of their school, a map of their room, a map of their house, whatever. They make a map. Whereas the other example that's maybe more local is making an Oregon map. And so if we come to, let's see, this is the teaching slide deck to help with the make your own map. So you see that they look at a couple of different maps from all over. And then in their journal, they're creating some tables and answering some questions and taking notes as they watch those videos. So even though in the teaching slide deck, I allude to the videos, you actually do have to go to the Canvas course in order to grab those videos or to play those videos. But you can switch back to this teaching slide deck if that helps the students. I included in the slide deck a space where you could go in and type out the answers together with the kids as they make notes. I think you'll have view only access. So if you wanted to add to this component, then you just are going to, like always, go into view, make a copy, and then you can edit to your heart's content. So again, this map, just so happens the Discovery questions had maps for Portland, Oregon, which is kind of fun, and looking at maps of Maine. There's these like drag and drop images. So if you wanted the kids to make the table, like it's telling you to make the table, and then you guys come back through and you just drag and drop each of these as they answer the questions, and you kind of grade their responses. That is an option. I just want to make sure you knew that was there. And at the end, they end up taking a picture of their notes and turning it in on Canvas just so that you have an evidence of their learning without having to collect all of their journals. So trying to find a really good balance between writing in their journals and using their Chromebooks. And again, that is the Making a Map Discovery version. Whereas if you go into the Oregon version and the Making Your Own Map, the students should have access, and they do in the Canvas course. They are linked to the Student Atlas, the Oregon Student Atlas that Brad mentioned on his overview video. So that is linked here. They just have to click to open it. And then this just walks them through step by step all of the components that we talk about. Adding a compass rose, adding a symbol for where they live, starting their map key, adding some geographical features. I try to include in one stop for you guys the maps that would be helpful as they walked through these components. And then at the end, they do a gallery walk. I included a timer so that you could have the kids walk around and look at each other's things. As they finish the map. The map they do need to keep because we come back to it a couple more times in the unit. So after the gallery walk, if they go back into Canvas, there's actually a reflection on their Oregon map after the gallery walk that you can have them do. Instead of collecting the maps, you can have them keep the maps so that they can use it in another activity. So in the Oregon map reflection, they're just typing out a response to a couple of questions. And there's a timer there to time them if this is something you want them to do, or you can use the timer up on the board, but basically just a reflection. What did you notice when you looked at everybody else's? What would you add after listening to feedback from your peers to your own Oregon map? And then finally, when we get into the Oregon Historical Society components, that one, lesson one, I actually think pacing wise is going to take a couple of class periods, and I separated them out into these 3 different sections: river as a provider, looking at Oregon's first foods, and again, adding to the Oregon map. I did create a slide deck for the water in Oregon example. Again, we asked them to use the annotation tool. So if they haven't looked at that annotation tool video, I included it in the slide deck, but you can remove it if you want to. Keep in mind too, I didn't mention this before, most of the slide decks do in fact have notes to the teacher in the slide notes. So be paying attention for those, trying to keep that going for you where it's available. And then at the end of this one is the end of the first lesson. And so then it tells you, okay, lesson 2, we're going to lesson 2. Now, a lot of these videos are on their own website. So this is a Vimeo video, which means I can't embed it into the slide deck like a YouTube video. So you have to click out in a new window to open up the video with Louie. And again, this is another spot where you as a teacher need to make a decision. Do you want them to do the digital annotation on Canvas, where it is a copy of this in color, or do you want to print out this version, or do you want the plain copy version? That all of those are linked as well. Just know that in the Canvas course, when we go into the first foods version, I do link out, I think, for the kids, if they need to watch the video, it's linked. So if they miss class that day, and then it's the Canvas annotation tool for them once they hit, submit a response as a student when they're viewing it as a student. So just know that you need to make a decision on what you would like to do for that specific example. So both, as I think there's 2 different little worksheets for students to work through: river as a provider, and then also first foods. And then also additionally in their journal, there is an additional lesson where we're investigating artifacts, and I have them working in their journal on providing like what their observations are and what their evidence is as they finish. And you walk them through each of those pieces. It actually does give you object 1 is this, and you can have them check their answers in their journal. And then at the end, coming back to that Oregon map of theirs, they'll be adding lakes and rivers to that Oregon map at the very, very end. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, we've been working on getting the Chinook/Wawa app put into self-service for you. So if you click on this, it will take you to the App Store. If you have an Apple ID, you can just go ahead and download it as long as you enter your Apple ID and password. Otherwise, if you don't remember your Apple ID or password, you can go into self-service and you should be able to download this app straight to your MacBook instead of just to iPad, even though it was made for iPads. I think it probably would be best to just go ahead and put it on your laptop so then you can project sound when you're teaching in front of the students. If that becomes a problem, I did include a 20-second clip for you to play in class if you can't get it downloaded. So there is a little bit of a workaround, but I would highly recommend trying to download it because it really is a great app, and there's a lot of things that you could show the students that the app does. They might be interested in getting it themselves. And then we continue to talk a little bit about tribal lands, and we come back to the Oregon map one more time to add tribal regions. And I'm trying to remember if on the previous lesson, if I have them taking a video, a screenshot of their Oregon map. They might. So they're taking a screenshot of their Oregon map, but again, keeping it so that they can add the tribal lands. So this one will include the rivers and lakes, but it won't include the tribal lands that we're talking about here. So you need to make a decision, I guess, if you want to go ahead and collect that at the end. I think we said in the unit overview that the students might use the map again in the summative assessment. So that might be why we aren't collecting it. So that is everything for the overview. And please let me know. We want to hear feedback as we continue to build out units, what works for you and what doesn't. And again, hopefully you can see that there's a real collaboration happening between using the Discovery Ed as well as some of the local resources to enhance what we're doing, and then a good balance between working in a journal as well as doing some online pieces so that you aren't burdened with collecting too many things by hand, and you can use some of the great features of SpeedGrader and Canvas to make your grading life a little easier. Most of the assignments also on here have been, like I said, attached to a target and have been labeled with incomplete, complete instead of a point score. So you can go in and kind of change that if you need to or want to on any of the pieces in here. Okay, thanks.